Afternoon, ladies and gents. Welcome to Cynical Optimist YouTube video. I hesitate to call them vlogs. Report. We'll go with report. That makes me sound nice and sophisticated. Basically, the issue is blog post articles take quite a while to write, and whilst I certainly don't intend to stop writing them, I enjoy ranting at the government too much for that. Producing them on a regular basis at the moment is proving fairly difficult, so I thought a quick way to keep you all updated with what's going on in the world of Westminster politics and overseas wars and other things that you of course all come to me for would be to stick some videos up on YouTube and link them through the blog so you can all have a lovely little look. It might turn out to be an awful idea, who knows? We shall see, we shall see. Obviously today, the big story is David Cameron's cabinet reshuffle. I say cabinet reshuffle, it's obviously not just his cabinet, it's the entire government. Basically, the major point about this reshuffle is David Cameron's often been accused of having a woman problem. Up until this point, there have only been 3 women who are full members of the cabinet of course being the supreme executive body in the British government, and a 4th member, Baroness Wolsey, who was not a member of cabinet but was eligible to attend sessions. That's something around 13% of total cabinet ministers, even if you include Baroness Wolsey, which is abysmal, frankly. Obviously, it should be 50% or fairly close to that margin. So this reshuffle has largely been cast as an attempt by Cameron to bring in more women, which was expected. Actually, that hasn't happened to quite the degree people anticipated, really. As I said, previously we had 4 women able to attend cabinet. Now we have 8, which is an improvement, certainly, taking numbers to, I think, around 23%, but it's still only about a quarter rather than the half we'd ideally like. So there's still work to do there. The big news about this reshuffle has been the standing down of 3 very important Conservatives from their previous posts. Ken Clarke, first of all, who's been a Member of Parliament since 1970, and a Conservative minister since 1972, has resigned, rather, from his position as Minister without portfolio. That basically meant he was a minister in the government, but he didn't have a department. It's an odd position. It's one of those things that is peculiar about the British cabinet system, but allows ministers who the Prime Minister likes to stay on even if he doesn't have a job for them to do. That makes today, he resigned last night, so that makes today technically the first day of Conservative government since 1972 where Ken Clarke hasn't been a minister, which is a fairly momentous thing. The reason Ken Clarke's gone is basically because he's a Europhile, and lots of Conservative backbenchers don't like him for that reason, and Cameron is basically trying to curry favour with them because they're causing problems at the moment. The second person who's gone is William Hague. He went late last night, or fairly late last night. He stepped down as Foreign Secretary, although he'll remain a member of the Cabinet as Leader of the House of Commons until the next election, where he intends to stand down as an MP. He's been in Parliament rather, for 26 years, or he will have been by the end of his term next year. That's a fair amount of time, but not long compared to some other MPs. He's certainly no Father of the House, which is the title given to the oldest MP. He's actually kind of middle of the road in terms of length of career. So for him to step down now, especially being as he is A fairly capable Foreign Secretary, and B, a former leader of the party, is fairly significant, really. Cameron obviously doesn't want to lose him entirely because he's kept him on as Leader of the House of Commons. Whether he wanted to step down as Foreign Secretary or whether he was pushed, he probably, I would think, this instance, voluntarily resigned, because I can't see the benefit for Cameron of having rid of him. Although, having said that, he is or he has been in government, more Europhilic than some would have liked in the Conservative Party. Actually, when he was leader of the opposition, he was highly, highly Eurosceptic. The third big name to go is Michael Gove. I am delighted. Ken Clarke, sad to see go. William Hague, again, he's been a fairly decent Foreign Secretary. I'm not too pleased to see him go. Michael Gove, I've been waiting for that particular piece of news for 4 years. Michael Gove is an abysmal Education Secretary, or was an abysmal Education Secretary. He has massacred the already failing British education system, and frankly, he's taken far too long to go. And now that he's gone, hopefully we may start to see some changes, although I wouldn't count on it. This is the Tory party we're talking about. He's now Chief Whip, which is an important position in terms of the party. In terms of government, not so much, and at least he's not causing problems in the education system anymore. I would think that particular change of role was probably more enforced than by mutual consent. After all, Gove has always stated he has a passion for education, and it seemed to be the case. I mean, it was a passion for murdering it, but it was still a passion of sorts, I suppose. Gove's been replaced by a woman called Nicky Morgan. Now, Nicky Morgan is an interesting character. She's obviously she was previously a Treasury Minister working under George Osborne, the Chancellor. She's fairly competent. She can't really do a worse job than Michael Gove, but having said that, she also did vote against equal marriage when the Equal Marriage Bill came out last year. Michael Gove did as well, so there's no change there, but it would have been nice to see someone in charge of our schools who isn't opposed to basically equal rights, because frankly, having someone in charge of our schooling who is in opposition to equal rights for everyone kind of seems to go against the whole British values point that they've been labouring the past few months. But there we go. Mr. Hague has been replaced by a gentleman called Philip Hammond. He was previously Defence Secretary. Unlike Hague, who, as I said, in government has become somewhat more Europhilic than many backbenchers would have liked, Philip Hammond is the champion of Euroscepticism. He really, really can't stand Europe. Other than Michael Gove, he's the only Conservative minister to have gone on record saying that were there an EU referendum tomorrow, he'd vote to leave. So that's a big change. That's an important change, and that is clearly done to appease Eurosceptic backbenchers. So those are the three big changes. Owen Paterson, Environment Secretary, who was a prominent right-winger, has gone, and he was forced out. So there could be problems there down the line for Mr. Cameron, hopefully. The Welsh Secretary, I believe his name is David Jones, could be wrong. He's also left, and that's more or less it in terms of big players. There have been other changes as well. Obviously, we have a new Environment Secretary, who's another woman whose name escapes me. I believe she's called Tessa Hurst. I may have to double check that. If I'm wrong, I'll put it in the description. Something along those lines. As I say, there are definitely more women in the cabinet now, but still not nowhere near 50%. And they're not as experienced as the male ministers they're replacing. So it will be interesting to see how well they deal with the shift. I'm obviously delighted to see more women in the cabinet, don't get me wrong. Kind of thinking maybe some more experienced female MPs rather than these relatively less experienced might have been a better choice. But we'll see. Esther McVeigh, who is obviously a former television presenter, she's been not promoted. She's still an employment minister, but she's been given the right to attend cabinet. She's another important name. I was expecting a promotion with her, actually, and the fact that she's just been given the right to attend cabinet surprises me. She's one to watch, I think, for the future, especially since she's Liverpudlian and therefore carries a bit more of the working class vote than they normally do. But having said that, she's not particularly working class herself, but at least she's from Liverpool rather than West London or Oxfordshire, which most of the rest of them are. That's more or less it on the big points. It's been classed, this reshuffle, as the purge of middle-aged, middle-class white men. It's not really the case. I mean, most of those who have gone are middle-aged, middle-class white men, but then the vast majority of those who have replaced them are as well. As I say, other than the few additional women we now have, they're still middle-aged, middle-class white men, really. Not Nothing changes. It's the Tory party. What were you expecting? But yes, certainly a more radical reshuffle than many expected. Not as radical, perhaps, in terms of the women aspect as it could have been, but in terms of Ken Clark going was relatively expected. But in terms of Haig and Gove stepping down from their previous roles, that's a big move. That's a big change. Cameron's clearly trying to freshen up his front bench in preparation for the election next year, which is a good strategy, and one Prime Ministers often employ. Anyway, that's it for that particular story. I will be going now because I have things to be doing. I will see you, lovely, lovely people, at some point in the future. Hopefully some of you watch this. If not, I won't bother making another one. I'll just stick to writing blogs. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. See you later.